Coming up on Network Africa, the Southern African Development Community begins withdrawal of its peacekeeping forces from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mystery in South Africa after police officers found dead in Hennops River near Johannesburg. Plus, thousands of people displaced by the war in Sudan return home from Egypt. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. The Southern African Development Community, SADC, has started withdrawing its peacekeeping forces from the eastern regions of the Democratic Republic of Congo and is passing through Rwanda. Local media in Rwanda reports seeing SADC forces moving several trucks of soldiers and equipment from Goma in the North Kivu province through Rwanda. The reports also indicate that the convoy will travel to Cheto in northwestern Tanzania before repatriation to various countries. Earlier this month, Rwanda had agreed to give safe passage to the SADC forces. The force of several thousand peacekeeping troops from South Africa, Malawi and Tanzania had been sent to eastern Congo by the SADC in 2023 to help the Congolese government pacify a mineral-rich region plagued by various insurgencies. The SADC military mission had suffered heavy losses in the previous months, with around a dozen soldiers from South Africa, Malawi and Tanzania killed as the M23 rebels seized control of Goma. The termination came after losing about 17 soldiers to the rebels in the DRC. Police in South Africa are searching for answers after the bodies of 3 police officers who had been missing for 6 days were found in a river. The officers were last seen leaving a petrol station near Johannesburg last Wednesday. Their bodies were discovered by divers around 70 kilometers away in the Hennops River, along with the remains of 2 other unnamed persons. The police initially said they were investigating a case of possible hijacking and kidnapping, but on Tuesday said they could not speculate whether or not the deaths are accidental. Well, joining us now for more on this is Innocent Samosa, our Channels TV correspondent in Johannesburg. Hello, Innocent. Quite a mystery with this case. 3 police officers missing, now found dead in the river. What do we know about these officers and also the other 2 bodies that have been recovered?
Yeah, indeed. A very good evening to you, colleague. In this very much difficult time, it is heartbreaking development. The bodies of 3 police officers who went missing last week were found among 5 discovered in the Hennops River in Centurion. This, of course, happened on Tuesday. Now, the National Police Commissioner, that is Fanima Semola, confirmed that the news, of course, during the media briefing on Tuesday night. But we do know that the 3 officers were last seen on Thursday morning at a petrol station near the Grasmere Toll Plaza. This, of course, is in the N1 on the N1 in Gauteng province after leaving the station with a VW Polo. Now, as well as their cell phones, colleague, and tracking devices, all we do know, we're told that they went offline. A high-level investigation team had been working around the clock across Gauteng, the Free State, Limpopo, every possible lead, really. Their focus was to stretch to the N1. That's where they last, had the connection from the Grasmere Toll Plaza, you know, uh, going into the Baclua interchange to John Foster Drive and Centurion. But all of these things are happening in Johannesburg. Now, eventually, colleague, 5 bodies were recovered from the river. They were confirmed as the missing officers, unfortunately, and the other 2, including an administrative clerk from the Leightonton police station. So it's difficult times. In fact, the commissioner, Fanima Simula, explained that the breakthrough came on Monday when teams from the South African Police Services, drone unit, the cybercrime, crime intelligence, the Hawks, Gauteng Traffic Air Wing, the Bidvest, also the Bidvest Protea Coin Air Wing, found what was believed to be parts of the officer's car near the Henops River. So devastating times. I think the families at this point in time, they want answers as to what happened. But we do know that the investigations are still continuing to find out what really happened to these officers. Colleague.
Indeed, it's quite baffling, that this has happened, and especially to police officers. But how are South Africans reacting to this?
Well, it's difficult times. In fact, on social media, it has been trending the whole day. In fact, even yesterday, this is the big talking point for many people. In fact, the Commissioner Masemola expressed his gratitude to both the families of the South African National Police Services team for their dedication in the search. Saying, quote unquote, he said that this isn't the ending we were hoping for. We wanted to bring them home, alive. But he says that um, we are finding ourselves with some painful closure to the families of the South African National Defence Force, close quote. But just before the past Sunday, of course, police had announced a 350,000 reward for any information that could help, locate the missing officers. Of course, the announcement was made in Bloemfontein by the Police General, that is Fanima Semola. He was, of course, joined by the Free State Premier, her name is Queen Latsola. And of course, the South African Police Services Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibia. So, yeah, going back to your question, it's difficult for many people, and I would imagine it's even difficult for family members who have lost these police officers, colleague.
Indeed, in a sense, and even as we wait for, investigations to conclude and to really know what happened, it brings again the crime rate in the country, this brings it to the fore. How is the government really helping its case in making the country safe?
Well, it goes without saying, colleague, that this has been a long-standing issue that the police in the country like they're not capacitated. We don't have enough. They don't have, workforce on the ground. So that's another issue. But on the other hand, with this issue, investigations are leading towards whether or not they are suspecting that this could be, police to police issue, whereby it's, colleagues that have found themselves, fighting amongst themselves. But the issue of crime is still a long-standing issue in the country. We do know that even the budget in Parliament that is allocated to the police to deal with crime is simply not enough. In fact, the opposition party in the country was saying that the money to fight crime in the country is not enough. They want to basically put more money into fighting crime. But I guess maybe from where I'm sitting, it's a wrong way to go about it, colleague, if you ask me, because the issue is that we find people who are not employed and they resort to crime. So therefore, the issues emanate from the economy that is not growing, that is stagnant, and is making people to resort into illicit activities. So therefore, the onus now, Layo, it's standing with the government to basically build the economy, get people working so that you have less of these petty crimes that we're seeing today. But this, again, it's difficult time considering again that we find law enforcement in the crossfire yet again. Layo?
Oh, all right then, Innocent. We await the conclusion of the investigation. Innocent Musa, our correspondent in Johannesburg. Thank you.
Thank you so much, colleague.
Well, tens of thousands of Sudanese citizens driven from their homes by conflict are now returning from Egypt, despite the war still raging in some parts of the country. Many set off on the journey, even though they say they don't know what they'll find in their homeland, wrecked and still embroiled in a 2-year war. However, many say they are hopeful for some stability, and that's after the military recaptured the capital Khartoum and other areas from the rival Rapid Support Forces. Nearly 13 million people fled their homes, with some 4 million streaming into neighboring countries and the rest sheltering elsewhere in Sudan. A relatively small portion of the refugees are returning so far, but the numbers are accelerating. In Cairo, travel agencies speak of a noticeable uptick in travelers booking trips back to Sudan. At the onset of the April 2023 war, Egypt was the biggest recipient of Sudanese citizens forced to flee the ongoing conflict. Meanwhile, in Khartoum, students are returning to war-torn universities, hoping to complete their studies despite the ongoing conflict between the military and the Rapid Support Forces. The students are returning to massive destruction in the Sudan University of Science and Technology, where the facilities have been destroyed, lecture halls and courtyards filled with rubble and debris. Namarek Hassan, a teaching assistant at the Al-Zahari University Faculty of Laboratories, explains that expensive educational supplies had been lost amid the fighting. Students are now returning to Sudanese universities, and this is after a ruling by Mohamed Dahab, that's the Minister of Higher Education, who called for a resumption of schooling in areas deemed safe by the government. In March, the Sudanese army announced that it had regained control of the capital Khartoum, while the RSF confirmed that it had repositioned its forces, but vowed to remain committed to resolving the struggle in favor of the Sudanese people. Taiwan is condemning Somalia for banning travelers with Taiwanese passports from entering or transiting through the East African country. Taiwan's foreign ministry says the ban took effect on Wednesday following an order issued by Somali aviation authorities last week. Well, Somalia is yet to comment on the ban, which comes as Taiwan, a self-ruled island claimed by China, boosts ties with Somaliland, which broke away from Somalia 34 years ago, but remains mostly unrecognized internationally. In 2020, Somaliland and Taiwan set up embassies in each other's capitals, angering both China and Somalia. Somalia's Civil Aviation Authority issued a notice to airlines saying that Taiwanese passports will no longer be valid for entry into or transit through the Federal Republic of Somalia from April 30th. Let's take a break now on Network Africa. Still to come. Chad and Cameroon inaugurate the Bongo-Yagoa Bridge to boost trade and regional integration between both countries. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Back here in Nigeria, the federal government is again reiterating its commitment to protect the nation's cyberspace as it vows to tackle the menace of cyber criminals through effective collaboration of relevant agencies. Speaking at the official launch of the Joint Case Team on Cybercrimes in Abuja, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, says the launch of the case team is an initiative that marks a bold and transformative stride in Nigeria's criminal justice system aimed at protecting the nation's cyberspace.
Tackling the menace of cyber criminals is the mandate of the Joint Case Team on Cybercrimes, as stakeholders converged on the Ministry of Justice for the official launch of the team. The event begins with an address by the Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation.
We are not merely convening to witness the unveiling of a new initiative. We are embracing a bold paradigm shift in how we respond to growing threats in cyberspace. We are coming together not just as institutions, but as one community of justice.
From arrest to prosecution, stakeholders are united on the need to combat transnational crimes.
We know from our own dealings with fraud and with cybercrime that cybercrime and fraud are major drags on growth in the economy, on confidence in people in the economy. And this initiative today, therefore, is very welcome, both to support the development of tackling crime, but also to encourage, through that tackling crime, growth and investment in Nigeria and cooperation with the United Kingdom as a whole.
We must cooperate, we must innovate, and above all, we must act together. The Joint Case Team on Cybercrime represents a concrete response to these transnational threats. It brings together investors, analysts, and operational experts from the Nigerian Police Force National Cybercrime Center, the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, National Intelligence, NFIU, and Office of the National Security Advisor, ONSA, NAPTIP, and Interpol.
As a result of the complex nature of cybercrimes, the federal government reiterates its commitment to tackle the menace.
The Joint Case Team on Cybercrimes was backed in response to the need for a coordinated and robust approach to fighting crimes and contemplated in the Cybercrimes Prohibition, Prevention, and so on, that is etc. Act 2015 as amended.
With the official launch of the Joint Case Team on Cybercrimes, the federal government is hopeful that the team will succeed with continued support of all stakeholders.
Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, is calling for the revitalization of Nigeria-Brazil trade relations rooted in shared historical and cultural ties. This was at a gathering of high net worth investors and business leaders at a Brazil-Nigeria Business Roundtable in Rio de Janeiro. Mr. Tuga emphasized that renewed economic engagement should leverage both countries' comparative advantages with private enterprise innovation and robust governmental support as critical drivers. He also reaffirmed Nigeria's readiness to strategic long-term partnerships, highlighting the country's reforms and the government's commitment to de-risking investments, particularly through insurance mechanisms. The event was organized under the auspices of Apex Brazil, Brazil's leading investment promotion agency, in collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil and the Brazilian Development Bank. Stronger institutions and good governance will help tackle issues like insecurity, terrorism, and Western interference in Africa. This was agreed at a conference by the International College for Diplomatic Affairs, ICDA, with the theme Curbing the Prevailing Challenges of Integration in Africa. Director General of the College, Ambassador Dr. Tassi Daniel, lamented the fact that despite Africa's wealth and relevance, the continent continues to wallow in poverty, terrorism, and political instability.
The importance of Covering the prevailing challenges of integration in Africa cannot be overemphasized. It is important to stability in Africa. It is important to stability in the African economy. Africa's economy cannot be stable until challenges of integration are handled and dealt with. Also, we look at political instability. Uh, Integration has a way of, determining the stability of a nation's political governance structure. So if these issues are not sorted out, if they're not fished out and dealt with, we see what happens in Cameroon. We saw what happened in Gabon, for example. We also saw what happened in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso. So these events were events that were caused by such challenges that were not tackled. So the ICDA proposes solutions to tackle these challenges that may affect integration in Africa.
And finally on the program, Cameroon and Chad have marked a significant milestone in regional infrastructure development with the official inauguration of the Bongo-Yagoa Bridge spanning the Longone River. In Yagoa, citizens gathered as officials from both countries took part in the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The Bongo-Yagoa Bridge, a 620-meter-long structure, is part of a larger initiative aimed at strengthening connectivity between Chad and Cameroon while fostering regional integration across Central Africa. The project includes 14.2 kilometers of access roads and essential infrastructure to facilitate smooth transit. Launched in 2020, the project was supported by the African Development Bank, AFDB, and the European Union, which contributed through a €40 million grant and a loan agreement. Well, prior to the bridge's construction, trade between Chad and Cameroon depended on a ferry system, with nearly 80% of Chad's imports and exports transiting through Cameroon. This infrastructure is expected to enhance trade efficiency and economic collaboration between the two countries.
C'était la Ben Sadou dans le titre RDPC.
And that's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.